Welcome to Early Care Connection. I'm Izzy Greenberg. Today we are joined by Ava Bermuda Zimmerman from Childcare for CT. Merrill is off this morning, but we'll be back next week. And we have a special guest, our wonderful Liz Frazier, returning to tell us about some cool stuff going on. So I guess first, just a reminder to speak slowly for Sandra. I'll start us off with that. To use the chat for conversation between the community or for technical difficulties, and to use the Q&A if you have questions for our panelists. So let's get started. I am going to welcome Liz, and it is always wonderful to have you here in any form, and it's been a while. So Liz Frazier, the program officer for LISC Connecticut, is going to be talking about creating access for early care and learning this morning. And Liz, are you going to share your PowerPoint, or do you need us to do that?
Why don't you share it, and then I'll be able to just read the comments for each and tell you when to switch it. Does that sound okay? That way I'm just...
Perfect. Yep. And I will share the, let me just do it right now, actually. I'll share the Spanish version in the chat. So for anyone who is here in Spanish and prefers that, there's your link. Let me just begin. All right, go ahead, Liz. You're welcome. Okay. Let me get this started.
Well, first of all, while you're getting it started, I'm really happy to be back here. And we've been really busy at LISC trying to make sure that all of the 125 finalists for the first grant round are completing their projects, that they are on track, and that all is going well with the grant process. But the other thing that I've been doing also is I'm always remembering those folks that applied for a grant and didn't get one. With over 730 folks applying and 125 grants, that leaves a lot of people out. So one of the things we tried to do is first make this grant program as successful as possible so that we could continue this program. And the second thing we needed to do is to secure the funding, and that would have to come from the legislature, and that's what we're doing right now. So I want you to know, as we're going through this presentation, a lot of this is about all of you, about your hard work, and about your need for some support in getting your facilities up to what you feel your standard is and should be, whether it's your home or a center. So the first slide here, I just wanted to tell you that, yeah, well, I'll just keep on going then. We'll move forward. All right, so LISC is the nation's largest community development corporation for financing, and we have 38 local programs around the country and a rural team that reaches across hundreds of communities in nearly every state. We pool public and private dollars through local partners, deploy capital in communities that have historically had trouble accessing resources in the open market. And we work to drive systems change and focus on strategies that center people in places and support locally driven solutions. So since 1979, LISC has invested $30 billion, which is leveraged to about $87 billion in total development in low and moderate income communities. And a lot of that includes housing supports and housing building and mixed use buildings, and of course, early childhood. Okay, next slide. You can, okay. I've just got to figure out how I'm going to do this with my, hold on. If you don't mind, I'm just going to move one screen to another one so I can see that and I can read my notes. So
no problem. And if folks are, this does, you know what, sometimes when we turn it into a Google Doc so we can share it with everyone, it does get a little bit funny. So I'm going to stop the share and share from your original, Liz, if I can find it.
Oh, please go right ahead, and I can send it.
You keep going. Yeah, you want to take? 1 second to send, or I can get it. You just keep
No,
talking.
actually, I don't mind if you go ahead and get it then, and I will just go to the next slide. Actually, you will see in a moment, but we can go through it pretty quickly. Is just more of the same, introducing LISC, and it shows where the investments have been made, and Connecticut is certainly on the map.
Okay, do you want to keep the early care system as broken up? Is this the one you want now? If we don't need that that was the only one that was weird.
The early care system is broken is the next slide.
Yep.
I'm
great.
sorry,
We're
everyone,
here.
it has been a long few months for me, and so
You're doing it.
this is the
We're all-
culmination.
we're
Yeah,
all doing
coming
it.
back here. Okay. So you have it. Is it?
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
up.
see
Yep.
it. Okay. While we are here today to focus specifically on investments for facilities, we have to acknowledge first that the early care system in our country is broken. The financial instability of childcare programs is just exacerbated by high operating costs, limited profit margins, and facility expenses. Moving forward, investments in early learning facilities need to operate not as a standalone, but really as part of a larger system that looks at all aspects of early childhood care, including availability of slots, affordability for parents, fair pay for teachers, and safe and high quality early learning environments for children. The system as a whole only works when childcare is affordable for all parents and accessible for all parents. So it's really important that all of you know that we are looking at this as part of a system, not that we just need more money for facilities. The map on this page is actually very interesting, and Meryl put it together for us. It will be an interactive map. We will have it on online eventually. We will be putting this our report that we'll be speaking about into a digital report. But what he has done here in this map is taken birth records from every town, and he has then taken all the spaces available in that town and put them together to see how many spaces are available or not available per town. So if you're looking at the white areas on this map, if 60% of parents needed children in any town in Connecticut right now, the majority of children in those white areas could access care. However, if you're looking at the darker areas, those are areas that do not have enough spaces. The darker it gets, the worse it gets for those families and accessibility. So that will be available for everybody online as soon as the digital report is up. So we can go to the next slide now. So as you know, we started with the facilities with the ARPA funding that we received. It provided flexible funding opportunities for us to support the childcare sector in fixing and expanding facilities. There was $15 million there. And as you know, you had to really think about increasing infant and toddler slots, preschool slots, and childcare deserts. There were also two parts of this, including quality improvements and health and safety improvements. And we tried to do as many health and safety improvements as we can, but we knew that we were not getting everybody. So that is a concern for us. The elements that made this program successful included beneficiary designations for grantees. That allowed for advance payments to providers rather than reimbursement, as it is in most construction grants. The program didn't require liens or onerous conditions, such as long-term leases or property guarantees. And lastly, it allowed for funding to support technical assistance, which was really critical for success. And then we administered the fund. We had the 700 folks that applied, and we still have all those applications, by the way, and we had the 125 finalists. And here is just the slide. The next slide you can go to is just another slide at the applications at a glance. And from the applications, 88% of the applicants accepted Care for Kids, 60% had a wait list for their program, and 87% were located in high or medium high areas classified as a childcare desert. And 5,967 slots would have been possibly provided with $75 million, but we only had 13 million. So, oops, sorry, there. Okay, we can go to the next slide. The next slide, I think I showed you maybe once before, but, and it's kind of hard to see with the blue on this, but there are these are the applications from all around the state that came in. And as you can see, there are many communities where there weren't any applications at all. And if you really look at it, it's really along transportation corridors and cities where you see a lot of the applications. I think it shows here that there's a lot of work to be done in rural areas, and there's still a very high need in many cities. Okay, so the next slide you can go to, and after internal reviews and external reviews, feedback from the Office of Early Childhood, that's how 125 grantees were selected. They went out for external review, they came back in, and we looked at them internally with a group of internal folks, some not even involved in childcare at LISC, to look at the ones to fund and to try to figure out who would make, where we could place them all. We wanted to make sure they were from all around the state, and that they accepted Care for Kids. So there were a whole bunch of qualifiers, but they were all, we only received a few back from the external committee that we were trying to give grants to. So the external committee did a lot of that work. Okay, grantees by community. You can see in the next slide that the grantees that were chosen from this followed the same lines, just not as many. And the next slide. So as part of LISC work, what we were also supposed to do is prepare a landscape analysis that looks at the current status of facilities and promising models from around the country. So on last Thursday, we released a report that will be available online and will be available in a digital version in about a month. And it's a landscape analysis looking at what we learned from the grant itself, and also reaching out with a survey, which maybe a lot of you responded to, because we had quite a few respondents and we're really grateful for all of your work. Okay, next slide. The current state, this is how it happened. LISC, in collaboration with consultants, did some one-on-one interviews with some providers, sector leaders, to understand the current challenges. Oh, I've got to go back. We also, we also did a survey, which I just mentioned, that we sent out to folks all across the state through the listserv and through other folks that we work with, to their listservs. And we asked questions to best understand the current needs in order to determine the types of funding that would be required, who needed what types of projects were needed. And then for this survey, we also worked with our national team to look all around the country at a review of promising models to demonstrate how public and private funding could be used for this. And I'd like to also thank, the Office of Early Childhood supported part of this, and also the Connecticut Project also supplied funds so we could do a deeper dive into this. As part of the survey, we asked open-ended questions to allow providers to share in their own words the challenge that they have. Our facility was constructed in 2000, and is in need of plumbing repairs. We have had to close early 2 days over the past year due to pipes that are deteriorated and burst, causing flooding in classroom and bathroom. So we had quite a few comments like that. And many of, the health and safety projects that we did for the first grant that weren't expansions, but just health and safety, echoed this type of repair that was needed, with classrooms just flooding in rainstorms, with mold, with dangerous conditions for children. Okay, next slide. So of the 574 providers that completed the survey, we've got some key findings here, but I'm sure that it will not be a surprise to anybody here. Just half of the programs operate in buildings before lead regulations were in place. And why is this important? Because often there is lead underpaint, or it's painted on floors that have tiles on them. And when you have to do renovations or repairs or just wear and tear, that lead starts getting into the air. So we really need to think about how old our building stock is when regulations were put in place and how we can help to mitigate that. 80% of family providers and 71% of centers did not express confidence in having funds on hand to cover an emergency expense at their facility. So if there's a flood or if an HVAC system breaks down, that percentage of folks did not think that they would have the funds on hand. They would have to struggle to find those funds, take a loan out, or figure out some way to pay for it. And as you know, there aren't that many other, the margins that are being made are very small. So there is often not that type of emergency coverage. 77% of all providers indicated that their playground or outside area was in need of improvements. However, I will say this about all of you. Most promising is that despite all of these challenges, providers, the folks who provide care, are really, really dedicated, and they're really proud of their programs. And 83% could identify at least one or more element of their facility that they really liked. The most common answer was location. If it was close to a village center or near an open space, or great proximity to area jobs that serve families. But they also looked at the families that were part of their program. A lot of comments about the wonderful families they had. And overall, providers were not looking to leave their space, but looking for opportunities to improve it, which is great. Okay, next slide. In other insight, we found that providers are doing the best they can and coming up with creative solutions to best serve children in their care. For family providers, this is very interesting. 52% of providers are operating directly in their own main living space, and 81% of providers cited cost as the main reason that they couldn't expand to maybe enclose a screen porch or to redo a basement. For centers, 37% actually indicated they had space to expand, but of these, half cited cost as the main barrier for not being able to do so. And currently, only 38% of center-based survey respondents indicated they were operating in a facility designed and built for childcare, indicating that over half providers are retrofitting other spaces to make suitable for childcare, which I think actually is fine. And people are doing great jobs with different types of buildings in this project. However, you want to make sure that you have the funding to make it really child-centered, to make that space really focused around children, and not about trying to do the most you can for the least amount of money, which is what we often have to do. So if you have access to capital, you're often able to do more things that are closely aligned with early childhood, and not just look at space and square footage, and really be able to do some cool things. Um, so, and this is just some more of that data. Okay. So there's innovative models around the country, and I think that it's much easier to look in the book the report that we wrote, to look through some of these things. But we do know that we need to be innovative in some parts of our state as to where we're located and how we best serve families. So, for example, affordable housing is really important for providers as well as for families. And in some places, affordable rental housing is designed to incorporate at least one or two family childcare providers within that space. We heard of a Habitat project that did that, or is looking into doing that. And there's some other places around the country where they do that. There is work right now also in Connecticut and elsewhere to look for down payment assistance for families and for providers who are interested in doing home care. Co-location, again, in a senior center or in an office building where there's additional space, you can often locate a building there, a program there. Incubators, we all know about the incubators. And environment, we have to have some creative mechanisms within our funding programs that specifically allow for upgrades to the HVAC systems and ventilation to improve air quality. We know the number of children that have asthma, that have airborne issues, and we really need to look at that. But additionally, there is much more flooding lately. Flooding brings mold. Again, more issues with that too. So we really need to start looking at some of those types of innovations as well. Where do we go next? So what we have proposed is, through our assessments and our surveys and a review of the national landscape, we believe that we should establish a sustained early childhood facilities fund. That this is difficult work to do in a one-off funding opportunity, not just for the, for LISC, who's just trying to get these grants out and done, but mostly for providers. It doesn't allow providers the time and flexibility to plan accordingly. It's like, hurry up, we've got to get this done, which is what this first project was. We needed to get money out the door because it was ARPA money. What we really want to see is a planning process for folks, more technical assistance to help get projects ready before they receive the full grant. So smaller grants possibly up front, so that you can start the work, start the permitting process, and some of the challenges that face folks before the work starts. And so we're really trying to work on that as well. So it's really establishing the same fund, providing targeted technical assistance, improving data collection so we know where the hotspots are, where people really need care, and that we're making sure that all of the early childhood programs speak to one another. So if, for example, there are more slots being allocated in different places, there are opportunities for facilities to improve in those same places. Expand and align the funding sources with, for example, what we're doing right now. And if any of you are family home providers, Connecticut Children's Medical, and I can get you that information, has a program right now on looking at lead and abating and remedying lead in homes built before 1978. So if you're a family home, and they want family home providers. If you are a family home provider, your home was built before 1978, there is a link that you can go to and send in your information to the Connecticut Children's, who is overseeing that grant program, and they will come out and assess it. And if you have lead, they will remediate it. So that's a really great opportunity for you as well. And then finally, address licensing and regulatory barriers. I just want to say that this doesn't mean more licensing. It means that, or less licensing. It means that we need to look at what licensing we have and make sure it dovetails with what you all need. I don't think you need a ding necessarily for certain things, maybe, but maybe other things you really need help with. And if you need help, then there should be a way to get it. So if there's something really wrong with that you feel is a health and safety issue, you know, it would be great to be able to bring that up to your licensing person and have some support in finding the funds that you need to fix it. Regulatory barriers are really difficult. Zoning is very, very tricky. 169 towns, 169 different ways, and probably, you know, more than 169 people that make these choices. And sometimes it seems like there is no rhyme or reason to some of these sources. So that is the other thing that we would like to try to do, is to make that process easier. And is that one more? This is the roadmap. Immediate next steps, we're trying to find funding to get started. In the next 5 years, as the system is growing, as providers are getting paid what they need to get paid and can support their programs, and as programs become more affordable for parents, that's when more demand will come. And we know that there's some demand now, but there'll be more demand now for, are the slides not moving?
No, I wanted to know which slide you wanted me to be.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on 19 now.
Oh, all right. I was like, this doesn't seem to be lining up. Okay.
Okay, so why don't you go just back and flip through slowly so people can see what I was talking about. I apologize. I wasn't saying move the slide.
Okay. Okay. Survey says, I will also put this in the chat once we've finished up so folks can look at it.
Oh, the survey says we're way behind. I'm at the end. This is on the last slide.
Well, hopefully then.
Sorry, everyone.
That's no problem. I was like, this just doesn't seem to be lining up. Okay, last slide. I'll share.
You see, I can't see your slides on my screen.
I see.
So I'm not paying attention. I apologize. Okay. Anyway, we're on the last slide.
Stop this then. Excuse me. I'm going to stop the share and we'll just chat now. That's all right.
Not a problem.
Okay.
So we have, the last slide is really an implementation roadmap. You can pull the slides and see them on your own computer, but really it aligns 5 to 7 years with what the system will be looking like being built. So we know we can't do this all right away. And I will get the link for the lead program. I just have to find it.
Great. Sorry about that, guys. I was
waiting
for Liz to say move forward and she was looking, whatever. Today is a real Monday. It's a real Monday of a Monday.
Well, let me just say this report is 89 pages and we've been working on it for the past 3 months. And last Thursday was our big culmination. But if anyone who's done a big report before knows the editing that has to go in and the timing on getting a report to the printer, I'm pretty tired. So we had a lot of sleepless nights last week, and I think I tried to rest this weekend, but I'm a little bit behind, so I apologize.
No problem. We've got some questions here, though.
Great.
You ready? Okay,
yes.
just for